So today I'm with Jorge Cabezas. Jorge has spent 25 years in the mining industry. 15 of those years have been working on sites with tier 1 miners, and Jorge is an IT OT specialist. I'm very excited to speak with you today and hear about your experience. Maybe you can go into a little bit of background about what you've done and where you've been.
Well, thank you, Cody. First of all, thank you for inviting me to talk and get these kind of conversations, and also to share some learning that I get from my experience, as you say, in mining. I started my career in Escondida when I was so young, around 20 years old.
Wow.
I grew up in Antofagasta place, so I could, take around the 90s, the experience to go on the ground in the mining like Escondida, a top one copper producer at the moment, right now. So it was a long career working in, several areas in technology, mainly. When I say technology, I say, all the department that is in charge to cover all the projects and also all the operational continuity kind of things. And also, at the end of my career, around 2020, during the COVID era, I was the amazing experience to work in BHP, also here in Santiago, where I could, be, part of the team who created the first, integrated remote operations center for BHP here in Santiago de Chile.
IROC Center.
The IROC Center, correctly.
Perfect.
So at the end of my career, I think at the end, because I just started with a new company in Armada right now, working in a consultant kind of engagement. I was working in automation also as part of the drill autonomy that we are running for around some bigger customer in mining area here in Chile as well. So that is my overall career in mining at the moment.
Great. That's actually one of the reasons I was really interested to speak with you, because today technology is such an integrated part of what is happening in the mining industry, and a part of that a lot of times is having sensors or being able to connect softwares or just being connected in general. So I guess I'll get right into my first question. And so one of the first things I wanted to learn is what are some of the trends that you're seeing with IT, OT, and what is happening on site? Maybe you could give us some of your input.
Yeah, sure. So in this long journey in technology, Cody, the technology is happening right now like a must be. Maybe by the beginning, technology was like a IT kind of things in terms of just to enable the internet, or the email kind of thing, but not, right now, the company like a big miners need technology to enable the business, which means essentially, to run the operation, to increase, their productivity or their efficiencies, needs as a must be to use a technology. One of the examples that I would like to, to highlight in my career was, the use of technology to enable remote operations, which means, you can, bring people from the mine site to a centralized area where you can, integrate all together as a single team, but also in the technology layer, you are also able to integrate the OT space with IT space, which means you bring the OT technologies or the operational technologies say, to bring the business the value that they need, which means, for example, to integrate, remote equipment like a drills, trucks, or any other equipment in the ground, to get access to the plant data in a centralized area, so you can have also access to a fleet by the connectivity through a wireless connectivity like a LTE or any 5G network that we can implement, and also in a centralized area like an IROC, for example, you are able to take the data and add over that data, intelligence, which means, for example, analytics that you can run some predictive areas where you can, save, time, you can save, some maintenance works, or even you can, unblock a new areas where right now are still unknown, to improve different space that normally in the old times of technology was impossible to get. One example is, is autonomy. You can run right now to the data from a drills in the field, and to get that data inside, in your analytics, and get some savings of some energy, save of consumables. I don't know how to say it in English. Consumables.
Yeah.
And also, to save, people on the ground and to get that people retrained to be, as an analytical person in a centralized part.
Excellent. No, it's really interesting, and we're seeing technology right from where you're digging out the material all the way up to corporate. So from your perspective, what are some of the challenges that service providers have when working on mine sites? Right now we're seeing some companies that have a lot of mining experience and others that are coming from other sectors and are just starting to enter the mining industry. So maybe you can give us kind of an overview, or what are some of the challenges that companies are going to find?
Yeah, you know what? I have been as a service provider also in the mining areas. I have been also in the field. That's it's important to have understanding the safety conditions that are important to understand first. It's not only a protocol that you need to understand. You also need to understand that you are facing with a geographical altitude, for example, and you are living in the mine site. So you must have Spanish capabilities. That is something that sometimes we forget. But maybe at the corporate level, you can have people who can understand and speak in English. But in the operational level, most of the guys on the ground are, Spanish speakers. Also, the culture is different in terms of the mining, decision that you need to be addressed. Mining is a non-stop business, which means, you must understand also the safety is a condition, but also the operational continuity is another condition that you need to understand to run any kind of services or any kind of project that who is going to affect, different areas like processes, or technologies, or people affected. You must to drive through a right change management understanding to understand all the risks involved in that project, and how you can address that in the early stage. So, based on my experience, just to understand first safety, secondly the cultural of the people that is running in operation sites, like protocol, procedure, and so on.
Yeah.
And plus to understand this non-stop business, you must understand that you need to be aware about the change management processes. That's important to identify in early stage any risk to avoid disruptions of that processes.
And in terms of IT, OT, sensors, and all these, is there something that companies need to understand before they start deploying on site? Some of the things that we've talked about before is, the geographic location and some of these sites are altitude.
Yes, it's a very funny question sometimes, Cody, because I say funny because for longer time, for example, the dust is a huge problem in the mine site. And I can tell you that for longer time, I see data rooms totally covered with dust, which means, it's a so simple thing to do, but at the same time, it's too hard to resolve, right? So even, in climate conditions over the 5 a.m. in the morning, you have, ice in the screens.
Yeah.
In the CCTV camera, for example, if you are controlling a crusher from Santiago to the bed of the desert in Antofagasta, for example, you have at the 5 a.m. a freeze image.
Wow.
So you must have people ready to go at that time with a current safety protocol, right? With a knowledge of the area that they need to attend, to clean or to set up a sensor, a camera, or any other device that is connected right now in the field. That is another important point, because in the past we couldn't get all the asset connected. Currently, through a technology that like a satellite kind of technology that right now is so strong trends also, you can get different devices that are so isolated in a altitude area with the climate is so hard that you can have that images or info or data in your place, which means you must have people ready to solve issues of connectivities, resolve issues of any dust problem in the site, or even ice problems in the site.
And one of the things that I've learned is, for example, we have clients that come from Australia, and I remember a client telling me they had a camera, and so you have to clean this camera once a day or once every couple of days or whatever it is. And so in that case in Australia, they had no issue. A site worker could go and clean it off. But when they came to Chile, one of the issues was that the mining company said, hey, look, it's not ours, so you have to have the person that goes and cleans it. Even though it was something very simple, the mining company didn't want to be in charge of that. They didn't want to be responsible for that. Is that something very common here where the service providers will need to have people on site?
Yes, you know the minings are more related with the mines kind of task. I mean, you know, the core business is to get, you know, rocks and process rock to get the ore of the rocks. But all the support functions, you know, normally even in technology, are outsourced to other companies like a vendors, which must have another wishes that have the miners, is to have an end-to-end kind of solutions, which means not only just sell and forget. You should sell, but also to operate and also to support the end-to-end solution until that solution works, right? So which means if I have a miner, I would like to have a company who can be in charge from the end-to-end services, people to port, of course. Capabilities is a must-be in the mines area right now.
And so my next question, this kind of touches on everything we've been just talking about from these past questions, which is if I'm from outside Chile and I'm entering the market and I have a solution, what do I need to know about selling to mines in Chile?
I think the best advice that I would like to bring to this question, Cody, is is to understand first the regulation that will need to be addressed first. Sometimes we forget that companies need pre-process to access to the mine site, for example, which means accreditations. Not only by the people that want to work in the mine site, also you must, as a company, to demonstrate that you are, a good company, no risk company, sorry. You have all the papers done, even your entity, in the local area. Your human, resources are in line with the regulation of the local labors. I remember one issue that I had with a company was, to have a chief permission to work in a 7x7 rules. Because Chileans, have a different kind of chief, but miners have a other kind of chief.
Exactly.
So you must have that knowledge to plan your project, to calculate your costs, to calculate your effort that you must have during different shifts, day and night, for example, 7x7, to have that experience. And second advice that I would like to raise to a company that who want to work with Chilean, for example, again, our culture sometimes is needed to be understandable with external companies, because Chileans, are so hard workers. That's one first. But second, we are so friendly to talk and to work, right? What I try to say, for example, for Australian company, the culture of Australians are so similar to Chileans, but in different language. That's the only difference. But people in the mine site are so friendly to work with external people, in Spanish, of course, first of all. But so if you can get in a good, connection with your people in the ground, with your contacts in the mines, from your mines client or from your external vendors, you can build a very strong teams who can solve anything. So the Chileans are so expert in solve issues and solve hard issues. I don't know how we can do that, but for sure, I totally convinced that Chileans are one of the best people that solve very huge issues in the ground.
But what's important is having that social connection and being able to build that team.
Correct.
Between the vendor and the mine site.
I think to get the knowledge and to execute the knowledge through the people that is living on the ground.
Exactly.
You can save time, risk, and avoid a lot of issues in regard.
So how can mining suppliers support mining companies to ensure that they're getting the most out of the technology? Because I think one of the hardest things is that we spend so much upfront time just making a sale. And then we deploy it, and then what comes next?
Sorry, could you say me again the question? I would like to understand better that.
No worries. So what I wanted to see is how can mining suppliers better support the mining companies?
I think, learning by experience. One of the important things that we need to understand also is we know suppliers are new in the mine, for example, but to get a learning is totally okay. But to learn from that experience is a must be as well. So we need to understand the mining in Chile are, a mature vertical, of companies. We have a top 5 or top 10 global miners over here for 30 years or maybe 14 years working on. So if a new company wants to work with a mining right now, you can fail, that's okay, but don't learn for that failure is a real issue. So to have a mentality of continual learning and operating in that area, I think is one of the advice that I would like to share with that company.
So continuous learning.
Continuous learning as well.
And in terms of change management and support, how can companies do better in that area?
That's a really good question because in technology sometimes you have some issues or some challenge to adopt, the technology, especially for new technologies. So I think the vendor can help to provide more training and to ensure that they can, like a coach, to provide some OCM kind of thing, the operational change management, because sometimes the operator or your internal customer is a little bit afraid of the technology. So but if you can put some people who can guide them or to coach them to take the value of the technology that they are using, will save time to adopt and to ensure that the company can use that investment that they are doing.
And a lot of technology is coming from outside of Chile. It's coming from Canada, the United States, or Australia, or Europe. And so how important is it to be able to provide that support, locally, or can it be provided from Australia? Where's the sweet spot?
Yeah, that is a good question. Also, it's a tricky question because in some of the area, especially in operational continuity, it's good to have a 24/7 coverage, which means follow the sun in some areas. So you can have the different remote location to support that level of service that the customer needs. So you can have people in India, you have people in Australia and any other place to coverage of the follow the sun kind of period.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you must have a bridges in between for language, for example, and also bridges in the fields to can go and repair, for example, a specific part inside. You must have different bridges for that, especially who is living in India, for example.
Exactly.
To fix a database which is taking a data from the field, must have for different bridge until to get that communications. So how important is the support of the processes of mine area for critical things are so important, and to have the enough capabilities in all your company. Maybe if you don't have internally, you can add different areas, a different partnership, including vendor from your client, to have the coverage of 20/7 support.
Yeah.
It's a must-have, I think, to get a good level of support for the miners.
Perfect. And what type of internal capabilities inside these mining companies do they have in order to support a technology deployment? Because a lot of the conversation right now is that the mining companies and what the typical workers and the typical capabilities they have is changing.
Yeah. The good news for that question, Cody, the top tier 1 companies in Chile have different internal teams, like project management teams, for example, or planning and technical area. They can evaluate different new technology to ensure that they can get the value to the business. That is the first part.
Yeah.
To evaluation of the facility stage. Secondly, they have executions teams, which mainly are project managers.
Yeah.
Who they can lead and dealing with the internal internal different actors that must be in the field for that project. And at the end of that change, you have operational teams, which are running the day-to-day tasks and activities. Most of the operational guys are living in the mine site as we can understand, but also there is a subcontractor for global companies that also are living in that area. So I think it's important to understand that ecosystem is running in place right now to keep the operation alive and up and running. So you can leverage that specialized people to bring your idea or your project or your services in the best way to run.
Very interesting. You've been involved with a lot of projects over your career. Some of, we had previously spoke about the deployment of autonomous drills, for example. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you faced while you guys were deploying autonomous drills?
Yeah, I think so one of the challenges that I would like to emphasize is the connectivity. So I think in the last recent years we can close that gap using different 4G, 5G, including now the Starlink kind of solution that in the low cost area, in the high latency kind of things is solving that gap. Yeah. We are able to connect different sensor, different assets in the mines, or even in exploration area where normally are disconnected from the centrals or corporate business or building of the customers. So that is one thing that we can highlight about the connectivity. So I think right now we can dream a lot how we can use that point of entries of data to centralize in one single place and to get some analysis over that. And the rest, in the other part of the value chain of the data, you have the information in that area. You have artificial intelligence that we right now are using. For example, to discover through the videos signals how you can use your app better. If you are getting some perimeter vigilance in your desert zone, you can now detect not only a person, not only animal. You can detect if the person have a helmet or not have a helmet. So you now with intelligence you can get more in details analysis of the images of the data or any other structured information. All of us know what is doing ChatGPT solution in the market that altogether living, but internally in the mines areas, you can now add your procedures, your engineering data. You can add all your protocols, and also you can save time to have and request questions to that intelligence to get experience and to drive that experience through a new project, for example.
And how comfortable are the mining companies or people within with artificial intelligence? Because one thing is artificial intelligence making decisions, and another one is actually giving them control.
Yeah, that is a good question. I think altogether are a little concerned about what are the potential of the intelligence that we are providing by technology. Yeah. But in my 2 or 3 years working in that area, I think we think that it's a really assistant of. So at the end of the day, intuition or decision doing by human is still at the end of the process. But if you can increase that decision making through a technology that can give you some alternative or better alternative to do that, you can empower your decision with the use of technology. I can say it's true. Sometimes we're afraid of the technology, but at the same time, when we see the results, in terms of you can get a better decision using that technology. Yeah. I'm totally sure that in the near future, we're going to coexist with different technologies to take decisions and to enable your time to focus your time in the most valuable thing for you.
Exactly.
Also.
Very interesting. You've spent a lot of time working both for tier 1 miners and also working for service and technology providers. I wanted to get your opinion. What are some of the typical mistakes that you see companies making when they first come to Chile or start deploying their technology? It'd be interesting to hear your perspective.
Yeah, you know what? I know. I want to talk about more about learnings, because to switch to the positive things is good to have also.
Yeah.
I think my main learning in doing some projects is understand again how deep could be the safety mentality, right? Safety is around everything. So not only for safe life or any hazard for a person, you also must understand the safety for your productions, for your your technology as well. So to have a good understanding of all the things are working on for a purposes, to add anything over that is a risk. You must to have a conscious that risk management and your change management is a one single and important thing you must have and take in your project.
Yeah.
So to save time for your prevention of the accident is good, but you save time to think about how to do the change and how you can address the change through a different process and protocol is also one of the learnings that I can share, change management.
And what about in terms of just like timing? Because everyone wants things fast, but obviously in the mining industry it has its own pace.
Yeah, again, safety first. The pressure of the processes is so hard always. We need to keep the production up, right, and keep everything up and running. But right now, we have the learning that you can stop. You can stop. You can raise your hands and say this is not going to work because it's not safety taken seriously. So because we cannot run if we are going to avoid these kind of risks that are in place.
Exactly.
So you have a good understanding in that area. The timing is getting your favor because if you fail without taking a risk assessment properly, the cost of that to repair that failure and come back to your plan is more costly than if you can avoid by the beginning, identify that solution by the beginning.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Jorge, for your time. It's been very interesting to hear from you, your perspective on many of these topics that get talked about, but sometimes we don't get to hear the perspective of someone who's worked inside the operations. So thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
It was a pleasure, buddy. Thank you for reminding me.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.